Hi guys, welcome back to TNG Productions. My name is Tom, and this is a first look video, I'm going to call it, for Masters of the Universe Battleground by Archon Studios, who you may know have also done properties based on Mattel for Fields of Eternia, which was a board game that came out a little while ago, and also produced Rampart Terrain, which you may have seen on your Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40k boards. Now this video is a review basically. They've sent this review copy out, which is not final. Obviously you can see it's in a blank box here. There's some beautiful artwork. I'll flash it up on screen now. It's going to come out. And they've sent this out. It isn't a paid review. You know how the channel works by now. They've just asked to give thoughts, and I think the best way I can do this is probably going to be two videos. This one is just going to go over what is in the box and what I think about the quality. And the second video is going to be kind of a turn overview, show you how the game plays, which will come out on the day that this goes live, which is the 26th of April at 11 AM. So before we start, what is this? This is a hex-based skirmish game. So it's basically in the same market as something like Warhammer Underworlds, God Tier, what's the Mantic one, like Overdrive, you know, that kind of cards, dice, multi-part plastic miniatures, skirmish it up, play about an hour's worth of game. And this is going to retail at $99, but it is important for me to say they are actually going to have a 10% discount for anyone who joins a newsletter, and I'll pop a link below for that if you are interested. So let's get into the box and I'll talk through exactly how this functions. So as we begin, you can see we have a set of sprues here. So these are multi-part plastic miniatures, as I said, in hard plastic. Let's get some close-up shots. I'll flash these on screen if they're not focusing particularly well. These are our good guys. We've got He-Man, we've got Stratos, we've got Orko, who we've got there, Ram Man, and we've got Man at Arms. And if you've seen these sculpts before, it's because these are very similar to the Fields of Eternia ones. And that is interesting because characters like She-Ra, which are not in this two-player starter set, may be coming in the future, maybe. Archon have said that they're going to have some expansions maybe in the summer, so I bet we'll see some of those then. Obviously color-coded plastic, which is always amazing in case you don't want to paint these. You've got your bad guy sprue here as well. We've got characters like Skeletor, Triclops, Evelyn, Trapjaw, Merman's in here as well. We've got a good variety of characters here, and I love the shade of purple. Now, I will put these together and I'll talk them through more in the second half of this video in terms of what the sculpts are like. But there are really good kind of crisp quality. If I just show like something like this torso, will you focus there on my camera? Probably not. The quality is actually really, really nice, and I think in many respects they've got a real clear, crisp printing structure to most things. There doesn't seem to be many mold lines on any of these. Everything is nicely labeled. There is an instruction manual that comes with it. So I really, really kind of like the quality so far, but we'll talk about those a little bit more afterwards. The thing that struck me the most about this box when I cracked it open for the first time, though, was the terrain. Okay, so this is a hex-based game. I'll show you the board in a second. There is an absolute boatload of terrain for this game in this starter set. Now, essentially, you've got what is, I don't know, I suppose the walls of Castle Grayskull or parts of Eternia. You've got kind of flat walls. You've got broken walls with windows. You've got ladders. You've got platforms. You've got little stumpy bits here. This would be amazing in a variety of systems. Like if you play Warcry, I think you could absolutely reuse this. But this is real sturdy, solid terrain, which again, I'll show on the board in a little bit. But you can see you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sprues of this stuff. So you've got enough to fill a big, big board. Now, when this comes out with the full retail, you'll obviously have a rule book that comes in with it, and there'll also be kind of a battlefield book, which gives you scenarios. I've just got the PDFs for now because it's currently being finalized. But underneath, if I take this one away, you will be able to see that we get our main contents. We've got some tokens that you can see here. I've popped one out already to have a look at them. And you can see our beautiful Eternia board. Now, I will get this all unpacked in a moment. I'll show you how it looks. But the print quality, they've actually said in the email that they kind of sent with this, you know, this isn't the finalized print quality. This is going to get a lot better. But actually, the thickness of the card is already really good. So I don't know how much more premium they're going to get with it, but I look forward to seeing it. So as you can see, hex-based board, quite wide. We'll talk about how long it is in a moment. I'm just going to pop it off to one side. And then we have our variety of dice and cards. So as you'd expect, this is a D6 mechanic. There are some really cool things that go with this though. There are exploding dice when you use this. There's also a variety of means of kind of changing your dice pools. It's pretty simple really. A 4+ is usually a success, but they can change the scope as they call it to make it easier or harder depending on your stats. There's a little flight stand in there. That'll be for Orko, won't it? To make sure he's kind of floating around. And then we've got a variety of cards. And again, they've said the print quality might change here. Let's show you some character cards. So right here we have, get it in focus, He-Man's card, and then we have Skeletors. So you can see this is kind of using very similar kind of quality and very similar kind of like mechanics as God Tier or Warhammer Underworlds, where you've got a stat card, you've got a character's base stats on it, you've got their abilities, and then you've got kind of key stats and skills they can use as the game goes on. This is accompanied with a variety of equipment cards. We have things like battle armor, we have things like swords, you know, you've got He-Man's sword in there, you've got Skeletor staff. They all add modifiers. And then we have quite an interesting thing. We have fate cards, as you can see at the back here, and we have glory cards. Now, these are the principal way that you activate models. So basically, a game is 4 turns, and each time you activate a model, you basically bet using the initiative value in this corner here, who's going to go first. It's got a lot in common with like Aristea in that sense, if anyone's played that by Corvus Belli. And when you flip this card, you basically get a set of AP, and you get a set of mana, and mana can be used to kind of change your dice rolls, as well as sometimes, if it's a glory card, a secret objective, and that's how you get your VP. So that's what comes in the box, but let's go put it all together, and we'll show you how it looks in a bit more detail next. And here we go then, all set up for a game of Battleground. Well, actually, me and Chris have been playing a couple of demo games last night. So the board itself is 30 inches by 22. As you can see, we've got the hex design here. They have said that they're probably going to look to do more expansions in the future that have different terrain and different boards. This probably won't be the only one you're limited to. And we've got the miniatures out. So just to show them off, let's get the main men. There was a little bit of cleanup with these, but actually, in terms of things like mold lines, there really wasn't too much of a problem. So here's He-Man. Now you can see there's little notches on the front of the bases. That's because facing does matter in this game. You can get kind of rear attacked or flanked, as it's called. But you can see really nice coloured plastic, really easy to put together. I'd kind of compare it to the Warhammer Underworld's warbands in terms of how quick and easy they are. Not quite push fit, but close enough with a little bit of plastic cement. And you can see Skeletor here. Now Skeletor is perhaps the worst offender for little bits of mould lines, but again, it was just on the normal axes that you would expect. But again, it's the darker plastic, it probably shows up more. So, when you play a game of Battlegrounds, there is actually a Battleground book which gives you all the information you need to play. It's like the organised play document. And they're quite big on wanting this to be an organised play structure. You essentially have like 100 points to spend on your force. Now, the starter battle only has 3 on 3, but you can have 5 characters, all the characters in the starter box, and you have equipment that goes with it. And if we take He-Man's card, on the back of their cards, it tells you kind of the equipment they're able to have and their basic equipment, as you can see here. Now, the important thing is the points values for these, which I actually think is a really smart move, isn't on the cards, it's in the Battleground book that they provide. And that is because I imagine it's going to go online and be a living document that they can errata the points as this kind of grows. So what's the point then? Well, the point of the game is to win by at least 20 points. And essentially it's a 4-turn game, and by the end you kind of count everything up in the finale. Now, easiest ways you can do this, you can grab objective tokens off the board, which basically means you're stood next to it unengaged at the end of a turn. They're worth 20. Or you can wipe out opposing models, and what you do is you total up how many points each character is worth and all the equipment they're holding, and you get a points value there. The other thing you can do, if you remember earlier, I showed you that there were glory cards. You can see some of these have, if I just grab one here, secret objectives that you can score to get points. And essentially the way this game works is you and your opponent will start a turn. You'll both have a hand of 5 fate cards and your 2 glory if you haven't played any yet. And you will pick a card with an initiative value, and you will place it face down and reveal it each. Whoever has the higher value will go first. And each of these cards has, quite simply, an AP and a mana number attached to them. The AP are your action points, they're the amount of actions you can have. So an action can be to move, it can be to attack, and there's like a scale. So if you move once, it's 1 AP, but if you move twice, it's 2, 3 times 3, so it gets more expensive. Mana is a really good resource. Mana has the ability to give you re-rolls on dice. Usually, the scope, as it's called, is a 4+, but you can use mana to kind of re-roll if you miss any. Or you can also use it for certain specific abilities. For example, if we grab Trapjaw, here he is, one of my favourite characters, you can see he has a hook attachment that he starts with, but he can spend a mana to swap it for his laser attachment, which is like his ranged weapon. So depending on where he is on the battlefield, he can spend mana for that. The other thing these cards have is underneath, they give you kind of like an either or option. So let's just bring that back into focus, where you can either get a bonus or just usually a straight mana that goes with that. And you can see in the corner, there's either universal or faction specific cards. And these are all faction specific for the starter game. So you play that. you've still got a hand of fate cards, and actually you're not just limited to the AP. Let's say you get another card that gives you the opportunity to, let's take this one for example. During this activation or interruption is like if you're overwatching, if this character's attack results in 4 or more successes, gain an AP. So actually, even if I've played this card and I win the initiative and He-Man's going first, let's say I do his 2 AP and I still want to do more, I can then play this card and I ignore these effects, but I get to use one of these bonuses. So actually these 5 cards in your hand, if you've got 5 characters on the field, become a very careful resource that you have to manage, because you might not be able to activate everyone because you might run out of those cards. Now the glory cards are a little bit different. They again have initiative values, they again have AP and mana, but again they have a secret objective which you can play from your hand as well if you want to, which is to kind of score points. Very, very similar mechanic to kind of Warhammer Underworlds in the way that you have additional ways to score points other than just sitting on the objectives. So aside from that, again, the terrain comes in a variety of layouts. That's all laid out in the Battlefield kind of book and how the Battleground scenarios play out. There's everything very nicely marked. You might notice the deployment zones have got like a black edging, whereas the other ones have white. The center zone is marked nicely. Range is measured in inches. You get to these big, lovely range rulers in 16 and 12-inch increments. So rather than measuring hexes, you measure inches. Terrain plays a huge part in terms of things like cover mechanics. There are status conditions. We've got focus here, which allows you to increase the scope of a test. So say if you normally need 4 pluses, you can make it so you only need 3 pluses. Other modifiers to dice can just be plus or minus the amount of dice that you roll. We have things like Overwatch, which does exactly what you'd expect it to. If someone comes in range of a weapon that you have, you get to interrupt and use it during their activation. And we've got kind of buffs and debuffs that go along with it, as well as some specific abilities as well. Now, just so I can show you exactly how these miniatures stand up in terms of scale, if we take He-Man here, and I've mentioned Underworlds, let's get an Underworlds model. Here's one of the, what they're called now, Death Rattle, stupid name, like Sepulchral Guard. You can see scale-wise, we're pretty much looking at a similar kind of scale, 32-ish maybe. Now, I did see a French language review of this game that went up dreadfully early, not ignoring the embargoes, we don't believe in embargoes. And actually, these minis are bigger than the Fields of Eternia ones by like a little bit, like a head height. So that might be something that's important if you've already picked up that game, but I think it's probably worth seeing what information comes out with Archon, making sure that this is the final scale, because obviously we've had this early. We don't know if this is the full finished result, but it's worth keeping in mind if you think, oh, I've got those miniatures already, these look like they're a little bit taller. So, what else do I need to cover with you? Well, obviously you've got a massive variety of cards and upgrades, which I showed you early on, and a huge variety of different cards that can go into your deck. So even though you start with the practice game of having the faction-specific ones, there is an entire deck of cards here for each player where you can build your own decks, have your own different glory cards in to tailor to your playstyle, which is really, really exciting. As I said, there is an organised play document that they're really trying to push. That's the thing that's going to be the forefront of this. But I think after playing 2 games with it, it's taken me hugely by surprise in terms of how well worked this is. The actual system that this is based on is incredibly well thought out. There's really fun dynamic moments with it. Some of the powers and abilities are amazing. Like Skeletor's got a great one on his staff that if a friend gets hurt, he gains mana, like he just feeds off their grief. He-Man's interesting in the sense that he himself, he can get extra mana from allies and other cards. He really powers himself up and he has like one big swing where he gets loads of rerolls. But it was just really fun. Chris and I had a really good kind of like laugh playing with the terrain, and we haven't even used any of the ladders or platforms for elevation yet. But every rule in the rulebook was really quick to find. It made a lot of sense. I like the fact that you can just manipulate the amount of dice you roll, but also the scope, like what you're aiming to succeed with. That was really interesting. And I think we played 2 games last night, which is this intro, and immediately we were looking at Evil Inn and we were looking at the other models. We were like, we need to build all 5. We need to play another game of it. So I've really enjoyed it so far, and as always, the acid test for this channel, if we review something, we'll always be honest about it, but the best review we can give is if we continue to play it. And like I said, we played 2 games of it last night, we're going to play another one next week. I'm going to do a video which is like an example turn on this, because I have really, really enjoyed it. So it was a really obscure IP to come out at us, but I actually think the system, the game system itself, has a lot of depth, so it'll be interesting to see what happens as people get hold of it. So as I said at the start of the video, I'm going to put all the links that I've talked about in the description below, as well as the pinned comment in case you want to have a look further. At the time of this video going live, pre-orders will be available. And remember, there is like a newsletter link for 10% off. So check that out. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. If you want any kind of photos or anything, let me know and I'll see if I can share them on Instagram. But a massive thank you for you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Hi guys, and thank you so much for watching our videos. It means the world to us. If you want to see some more, they should be over here. If you want to support this channel, keep these lights on. You can find links to our Patreon and merchandise in the description below. Take care.